Hi, I'm Brenda. Welcome back to my quilt room. Well, I'm going to get back in the swing and show you how to make a classic old block, and it's called Ocean Waves. This is one of those that I've been intimidated to try just because it has so many pieces to it. I'm going to show you a picture from an old book that I have, an old quilting book. And this is typically what you'll see if you Google images for the Ocean Waves block. And it had a lot of diagonal cutting, setting triangles on an angle. And this method that I'm going to show you today will simplify that quite a bit. A lot of times when I look at patterns, I will see how many pieces are there to that. And if there's very many pieces, I'm usually a little bit intimidated to try that. But I'm telling you, this is much easier, so don't be intimidated by the number of pieces that it takes to make this block. Now you can do it a couple of different ways. You can use scraps. So when I went to make my practice block, I dug through my scraps and I pulled out a whole bunch of blue. These are 3 inches. I keep my scraps cut down and sorted by sizes. So this is my 3 and 3.5 inch bin if I should need something scrappy. So what I did was I found some white and off-white scraps, and these are 3-inch squares, and I've put them right sides together and then drew a diagonal line with a pencil down the middle. And you can sew on each side 1/4 of an inch. And this is what you will have. And then you will cut it apart. Now these need to be squared up to 2.5 inches. And you won't have to remember all of the sizes and how many of each piece, because it'll all be in a PDF below for you to follow. So you'll want to take a triangle square up ruler and trim up. There's not very much to trim off by using a 3-inch square when you trim these down to 2.5 inches. And then you will have a half square triangle. And you'll need 12 of these to make 1/4 of your block. Now I know that sounds like a lot because you multiply 12 times 4 and you've got 48. But you won't have to do all of the math. I've done all that for you and it'll be in the instructions. So this can be a very scrappy pattern. It can be coordinated, but so you can just do whatever you want. I put a bunch of blue ones with some off-white together, and maybe I'll do one scrappy. But I've always wanted one of these in blue because typically that's the traditional color, is blue when you see it. So I thought, I bet I have a fat quarter bundle. And I did. This one is called Tea Service Volume 2, and it's from Connecting Threads. Now I don't know if they still have this in stock, but I'm going to show you with my practice block how I cut my fat quarter to get the most out of it to make what I'm going to use to make mine. So over here I've got a fat quarter, and this is on, I've folded it in half on the 18-inch side because, as you know, a fat quarter, they come 18 by 21 or 22. Now the edges need to be straightened, and so I'm going to lay my ruler down and I'm going to cut so that I have a nice straight edge to start with. And then you'll cut over 6 inches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at 6-inch intervals across your fat quarter. And you need to do this twice because we're going to cut 6-inch squares. I'm going to show you how you can make 8 half-square triangles at a time with a 6-inch square. So from your fat quarter, you will need to cut 2 of your strips at 6 inches. Now, if you want to make yours scrappy and bigger, you can go ahead and cut this last 6-inch section if you want to, or you could save it to make a decorative border after you've got all your blocks finished, after you've done all 16 of your blocks. So take your 6-inch strips and smooth them out together so they're lined up. And we're going to cut these into 6-inch squares, because you'll need 6 matched with a background color to make 8 half-square triangle units at a time. So you'll continue on cutting 2 more so that you have 6 6-inch squares. Okay? Now with that, you're going to match them to an I used off-white or white. You could use a light blue, whatever your color of choice is. So this is your 6-inch square. And I drew a line diagonally from corner to corner. And you're going to stitch along each of those lines. And then when you're finished and you cut it, you're going to cut it 3 inches, and this is vertically, and then you'll also cut it 3 inches horizontally to go through the center. Then continue to cut from corner to corner. And that will yield you 8 half-square triangle units. Now then these, you will square up each half square or half triangle unit. You're going to square these up with your square up tool to 2.5 inches. And then press them all open. Because you'll need 12, as I said, you'll need 12 to make 1/4 of the block. So I'm going to show you how you lay out after you've pressed your little half square triangle units. And a good way to remember which way they need to go is that when you're making this block, your dominant color, your blue, is always going to be in the upper right hand corner. So your first little subsection that you're going to sew together will look like this. And then when you stitch it together, here's how it looks. Now that's the first piece of the puzzle. You will make 2 of these. You're going to make 2 of these little subunits. And you'll have a rectangle and a square. And the rectangle goes to the upper right corner with one of these beside it. And that's the wrong one. It goes this way. And these go opposite corner to corner. And then your last one will have a 2.5 inch square sewed to it in the corner instead of a half square triangle unit. And I tell you in the instructions, you'll need 2 of these and 1 rectangle per each 1/4 of the block that you put together. So let me show you how that looks. When it's sewed together, this is how it will look. And this is 1/4 of your block. Now they just get rotated a 1/4 turn. And it will take 4 of these. This one isn't sewed together yet. It takes 4 of these to make a block. And so you can envision you will have 1 more block down here. And that's this one that I've not yet put together. And that will be your block. Now these units, the 1/4 of the quilt square is roughly 8 1/4 inches. That's what mine came out to be. So when you sew yours together, it could be 8 or 8 1/4, but you will end up, once all 4 of these are sewed together, with a 16-inch block. Now that's a pretty good size quilt block. So I have figured out that if you use 16 fat quarters, you can set this 4 blocks by 4 blocks, and you can get a nice throw that is a size about 61 inches by 61 inches. Now, like I said, you'll have your other strip of your fat quarter left over. You can either make more blocks if you choose to do that and mix everything up and make it scrappy. You could end up with 24 blocks and set it 4 by 6 if you like, or you could use your leftover fat quarter pieces to make a nice border to go around your 4 by 4 quilt that you've created. So I am anxious to cut these up, mix the whole pile up, and make my classic old-timey ocean waves quilt that I have always been intimidated to do. Now, I know it sounds like a lot of pieces, but if you take it just 1 little fat quarter at a time and cut it, sew them, square them up, and just work on it 1 block at a time, I don't think it would take you very long at all to put your 16 blocks together. Now in here, there's a fat quarter that's relatively white, and I'm probably going to use white as my background. So I have pulled some fabric out of my stash that I think will blend with this really well. So when it comes down to it, I may take that one out and use a piece of this instead, blend it in. So you can pull things in from your stash if every piece doesn't suit your taste. But that's just an idea and an easy way to do what I think in the past has been a really hard quilt pattern to do. Now, I told you in my last video that I recently purchased a Baby Lock Jazz 2 because my long arm quilter had stopped quilting, and I wanted to learn how to do my own quilting. So this quilt behind me, I put together. It's very scrappy with just browns that I had. The pattern is called Plateau. It's a pattern from Annie's catalog that you can look up online at annies.com or anniescatalog.com. And it came out 83 by 93. Now these are leftover scraps. I'm really happy with it, and I did quilt this on my Baby Lock Jazz 2. I quilted the whole entire thing myself, and I made the binding and I put the binding on the machine. So I've been watching some other people do some quilt as you go, and a block at a time, and there may be some of those tutorials that I feel, when I feel comfortable, to show you how, if you can't afford a long arm quilter or you have a domestic machine and you would like to do it yourself, that you can follow along with me and learn how to quilt your own quilts going forward. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. This is new water for me, but I'm looking forward to it. So until the next time, we'll see you later.